This is Chuck Schaefer of Customer.tv, and I am joined by Joe Payne, CEO of Eloqua. Joe, thank you for taking some time and joining me today.
Happy to be here, Chuck.
Joe, let me start off our conversation with a little bit of context. You are an advocate of a business development strategy that you call Revenue Performance Management, or RPM. For the business leader or marketer that's not yet familiar with Revenue Performance Management, how do you define or describe this business strategy?
Yeah, Chuck, it's not complicated. Revenue performance management is all about bringing together your marketing programs and your sales programs, looking at that and how they affect your sales, and analyzing what is driving your sales and what is contributing to your sales, and being able to do that kind of closed loop reporting so that you can grow your business better.
Is there an overarching business opportunity that's enabled, or a business problem that's solved by adopting RPM?
Well, simply put, Chuck, if you exercise an effective revenue performance management strategy, you grow faster than your competition. And so the problem you're trying to solve is more sales. I want to grow faster. And I'll tell you where it came about. We basically looked at our very best customers, people like Cognos, like Sybase, like VMware, and what they were doing was unique. They were using marketing automation, they were using Salesforce automation, and they were pulling the data from both of those systems, building a data warehouse so that they could do trending analysis, so they could do conversion through the funnel analysis, so that they could look for the marketing programs, what was leading to closed business, and in the sales programs, the closed business, what was driving that from the top of the marketing funnel. And by bringing all of that information together, putting it in a data warehouse, they could do trending, they could do benchmarking against themselves, and they could be much more sophisticated at the overall performance of their sales and marketing engine.
I think that you are a proponent that an RPM strategy applies across the board to businesses of all types. But is there a profile of the ideal customer that's going to get the maximum value from this strategy?
Well, and the way that we implement the strategy and the way we think about it is really for companies that sell through a sales force. It's very difficult to manage the entire first touch to close process if you sell through a sales force, because you have marketing involved in one part, you have sales involved in the other part, and a lot of the parts they're both involved. So that's been the real sticking point. We euphemistically call that B2B, but it's really folks that have a sales force. Could be a B2C company, but if you sell through a sales force, that's the part that we believe that we can optimize with a good revenue performance management strategy. Now, let me be clear, B2C companies, if you don't do revenue performance management today at a B2C company, you're out of business. Those companies, the web wiped out the companies that didn't change, that didn't become efficient, that didn't use technology on the B2C side, they're out of business already. And so we're really seeing this transformation occur in B2B companies right now.
Where do you think we are in terms of crossing a chasm to mainstream adoption of revenue performance management?
Yeah, Chuck, I think we're right at the beginning. I don't think we've crossed the chasm. I think we're just crossing the chasm now in marketing automation, and really marketing automation is a stepping stone towards revenue performance management. So first you start with Salesforce automation. If you were a CEO and you weren't doing anything today and you said, what should I do? I'd say, well, first put in a Salesforce automation system. You need that. Second, put in a marketing automation system and link those two things together. And then third, we're going to put that revenue performance management layer on top to make you more efficient and better. And so I think we're literally just starting. I mean, in our customer base is the top 5% of marketing in the world, and yet within our customer base, only about 10% of our customers are following a true RPM strategy yet. So I think we're just at the beginning.
What do you think is holding back more companies from adopting this strategy?
Lack of education, lack of knowledge, lack of people that can put in systems like these. One of the real differentiators with Eloqua is that when we sit down with a global 5,000 company or a Fortune 500 company, one of the things that I say to them, the first thing I say is like, look, you're going to buy technology from us, but you're also going to buy the services to help you set it up and implement it, and you're going to buy the education to bring your team along, and we're going to teach you how to do this, and we're going to wrap you with a set of services and people to make you successful. And I think, that's probably the thing that differentiates us most in the space, is we really focus on at making companies great with our software, and in order to do that, we've got to provide them a whole range of services to bring them along that journey.
For the sales, marketing, or business leader that's about to adopt an RPM strategy, how do you recommend they get started?
Well, as I mentioned, I think a lot of what you have to do when you're going to implement RPM is to learn what RPM is all about, and to learn best practices, and to learn benchmarks. Because if you don't know, what the benchmarks are, you don't know what you're aspiring to. You don't know where you're not doing well today versus where you can do better. So I think the first step is to find a vendor that understands this space, and that will wrap you with the services and the education necessary for you to be effective.
It's interesting that you brought up benchmarks. Performance metrics are key in measuring progress, verifying you're on a plan, or implementing adjustments or even course corrections. But the key to benchmarks, or the key to metrics, is measuring the right things. Do you have any advice on what metrics are more important than others when implementing an RPM strategy or implementing a marketing automation solution?
I think that's one of the most interesting things about this market. When we started with revenue performance management, we went out and we interviewed some of our very best clients who are already following this RPM strategy. And what we found was fascinating. They all measured different metrics, and they measured the success of their pipeline in different ways. And even within companies, if the marketing person changed, they changed the way that they measured those same metrics. So what we found was there's no gap, there's no generally accepted accounting principles for sales and marketing. And that was a really interesting finding for us. And so what we set out to do, we spent 1.5 years interviewing and consolidating, and then going back to these customers. And we spent 1.5 years developing a whole set of metrics that we think are the standards. We call them RPIs, or like KPIs, but for revenue, so revenue performance indicators. And we've made standards. And in creating those standards, we've now set up benchmarks for those standards. We're measuring those on our platform today. And we're telling marketers, this is how you should measure these 5 revenue performance indicators. This is how you should measure your reach. This is how you should measure your velocity of your pipeline. This is how you should measure your conversion rate and your ROI. And by setting up the standard measurements, we are telling the industry this is how to do it. And that's a really interesting dynamic that's happening in the marketplace today. We've had a number of different industry analysts start to coalesce around some of our measurements, and we've had other analysts in the industry say, "Oh, well, we wouldn't do it that way. We'd measure it this way." So this industry is still in its infancy, and there's a lot of intellectual thinking that's happening, and but we think building those standards was a key part of what we offer, and that's when I come back. You asked me, how would you start? Well, when I say education, it's about sitting down with the team and saying, look, we need to measure reach, and here's how you'd measure it. And we need to measure the breadth of your pipeline, and the velocity of your pipeline, and your conversion rates, and your return. And here's how we measure all those things. And then here's the benchmarks for those things today, and here's where you're starting, where you think you're starting, and we'll measure your progress along the way. So again, it's not about just selling you some software and saying, hey, have at it. It's about helping you become a modern marketer.
Well, very good. And with that comment, I think we're at a good break point to conclude our conversation. This is Chuck Schaefer. I've been joined by Joe Payne, CEO of Eloqua. Joe, thanks for your comments, thanks for your conversation, and joining me today.
Thanks, Chuck. I really appreciate it.
Likewise.